Welcome to the Therapists Uncut podcast, where off-the-clock therapists who happen to be friends share their uncensored thoughts about real life. Join us weekly in spreading positivity and making mental health relatable through casual conversation, inspirational stories, and real talk with friends who happen to be therapists. Please welcome your co-hosts, Nikki Young and Alyssa Nahara.
Welcome back, Therapist Uncut listeners. My name is Alyssa Nahara, and I am here with Nikki Young, licensed marriage and family therapist. And it is the season of holidays.
It is. And Doug Christie is joining us for today's episode.
Doug Christie? I don't even know who that is.
What? Oops, I just slammed the table. Anthony's going to be mad at me.
We're going to lose so many listeners because I don't know who Doug Christie is.
Okay.
For the rest of us who don't, who is it?
Basketball player, Sacramento Kings. Nothing. Hey. Okay. Part of the dream team.
And I love basketball.
Dream team. He's
Apparently
actually
returned
to the Kings organization. I'm very excited about this.
Fantastic. All right. Nikki and Stacey are going to take me to the game now, just so I never forget who Doug Christie is. Let's do it. All right. Back to holidays. So we are deep in holidays. Today we're talking about our traditional holidays of Thanksgiving and Christmas and whatever other holidays you are celebrating during this time. But holidays are stressful for some of us. Would you agree?
Not for me, but for people around me. I look at them and I'm like, dude, what is going on? Just take a chill pill.
Is it stressful for your wife? Can you see it on her?
She's listening right now. I don't know if I can answer that. I think aspects of it, yes. But in fact, this is probably a good segue into what we want to talk about today. But it was quite an adjustment for her to start spending holidays with me because as a crisis clinician, I do shift work. And that's a big part of what we want to talk about today. But, a lot of times I'm working Christmas Day or, Thanksgiving Day or Christmas Day, again, whatever holiday that you're celebrating. This is applicable to every single holiday out there, but I'm working most of them, or at least a chunk of them. And everybody's vying for the same days off. So it definitely was a transition for her to learn to celebrate holidays on maybe a different day or in a different fashion. And that's what we want to talk about today because so many people are in this boat.
Absolutely. And especially right now during the pandemic, I mean, we thought we were out of it and now we're back in a place where like, ooh, we still kind of deep in it. And now all this stuff is changing. We definitely want to show some love to the shift workers out there who are doing all these graveyard shifts, late nights, working, or even working day shift during these holidays where you're hoping that you could be home with your family or your friends or your pets. But unfortunately, there are some jobs where there's always got to be somebody on staff. And for instance, the crisis clinician position that Nikki has, someone's got to be available for crisis along with all
right. You mean crises happen on holidays when you put a bunch of family together and people become unsafe? No way.
I know, right? So let's give some examples of when shift work might apply. What kind of professions or positions might
there's so many, right? The ones that automatically pop up into my mind are going to be the ones that are relevant to what we do, but medical workers, and not just RNs and doctors, but all kinds of hospitals.
Everybody who supports the RNs and doctors.
Exactly, right? Your cafeteria staff, your back office admin that are, and in my role, right, I had this little, for one of my employers, I had this little desk that was tucked away in the deep, dark depths of the emergency department, right, in that back end office where you get to watch everybody that keeps the ED functioning. I feel like I need to clarify. Those of us that work out of the emergency, what people would call emergency room, we call it the emergency department. So we call it the ED. But as I talk about it, people that work in the school setting are like, that's not what ED means.
Oh, for sure.
Right? A lot of people are like, you erectile dysfunction. What are you talking about? So emergency departments, it's crazy. They are just nonstop on the phone trying to make sure that they are fully staffed, right? And constantly making adjustments based on their census and such. So I get a kind of a glimpse into the belly of the beast and how they keep people on staff and functioning, as particularly around the holidays. So my thoughts go towards the medical field and all the hospital staff, law enforcement, fire, EMS, all of the first responder, dispatchers.
Dispatchers is a big one. I feel like dispatchers get forgotten, and they are a huge part of this process of making sure that there is appropriate responses and that everything is taken care of. So shout out to all the dispatchers out there. I also want to speak a little bit on manufacturing, delivery. Y'all are working like triple time as we get closer to the holiday season because we just like to buy. And there's so many things we're buying and so many things that need to get delivered. So truck drivers, delivery, like I said, manufacturing. Sometimes if we are not in this position, or if we don't have a family member or spouse who is in this position, we can forget that
we get to just enjoy our Pinterest Christmas morning while all of our packages are just magically sitting under the tree and we're all just magically healthy. And, you know, if grandma catches the turkey on fire, the fire department's just magically going to show up. You know, nobody thinks about the fact that they aren't home with their families.
That's so true. And even if we're thinking about corrections, jails, prisons, all of those places still need to be staffed during the holidays as well. So we just wanted to give a huge shout out to all of our listeners and listeners' families who are doing the shift work and are impacted by their schedules or don't have as much control over their schedules when it comes to the holidays. And like Nikki said, not just the holidays this season, but throughout the year.
Yeah.
Birthdays. I don't know what other holidays are throughout the year.
Absolutely.
I can't even think of
right. From January 1
I just focus on birthdays.
December 31. Any holiday major birthdays are a good one as well, right? There's plenty of times we've celebrated birthdays on off days, pre-birthdays or birthday eves or whatnot, just because of the shift work. Power plants, right? How do you think you keep your lights on? Power plants are running during this time and they're staffed 24/7. I mean, again, we could spend the whole episode just identifying fields. I don't want anybody to be left out because a lot of times like me, right? The thoughts do go to the first responders in terms of emergency personnel, but there's countless.
But if we did leave you out, we want you to leave a comment either on the show, on YouTube, on our IGTV, wherever you guys are watching this. Leave a comment with your profession and your position so we can make sure we give you guys a shout out too.
Heck yeah.
In addition to supporting you guys and recognizing you, we also want to give you some ideas on how you can help cope, or if this is your first season in this role and you notice that your family has to adjust. Nikki mentioned, I'm good, but my wife had to adjust to it. And I didn't even think about that because it is hard for the spouse, partner, family members, kids, because we create these expectations around what things need to look like or what they have to look like to be perfect, or not even perfect, but what they have to look like. And then when those expectations aren't met, we are struggling with frustration and disappointment and resentment or anger. So we really want to support you guys in this episode on how we can help you plan and adjust to your schedule.
Yeah. And some of you out there are already nailing it, right? You guys have some awesome traditions in place and we want to hear those, right? So if you're already nailing these shift work holidays, let us know how. Like, give us ideas, give the listeners your take on things and how you do it. But I think you hit on a key point, right? It's twofold. I can't talk all of a sudden. It's twofold. Sometimes when you're the one doing the shift work, it doesn't even cross your mind. It's just normal. It's natural. It's what you do. It's your lifestyle. But for maybe your family or friends or spouse or whatnot, they're the ones having the adjustment. And then I think also sometimes it's the flip. So for me, I fall into that category, right? It just is what it is. It's just a calendar date. We can celebrate the sentiment of the holiday on any calendar. But sometimes I think people that are the ones working the shift work, there's a lot of grief, loss, feeling left out. And maybe that does depend on how long you've been doing it, whether you're used to it or not, or maybe it's more of a temperament, personality thing. But there's just so many ways that can affect you. So what can holidays look like? I threw out one idea, right? It's a calendar date. And is there any reason? And I know sometimes that there's religious reasons that somebody would want to celebrate on a specific date of the calendar year and that there's significance there. But a lot of times it's just a calendar date.
So I would encourage you guys to think about what these holidays mean for you. What value do they bring to you? What emotional need or family need are they meeting? And can you get those met on a different day? And Nikki's right. Sometimes there are religious holidays or religious dates of importance that have certain traditions around them. And it's really difficult to adjust around that. But outside of that, how can you adjust to begin preparing And I would say once you get your schedule, and I know you guys don't get it like, months ahead of time, but once you get it, start coordinating with your family or your friends or whomever your network is, so you can start adjusting and accommodating to the schedule so you can be a part of these traditions. That might take place on a different day or even an entirely different month. And is that okay? Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I think a big part of it is communication, right? Because if you're the only shift worker in your family, they're not going to be primed to see things through your lens. Right? So sometimes just introduce, and sometimes you're going to have a very considerate family members that are a step ahead of things and they're considering these things already and making adjustments. But if not, open the door to, start that communication. Like, hey, things look different for me. What can we do? Oh, how can this look? Can we have, if you're used to having a dinner celebration, but maybe you don't start work until 11 a.m., can you have a breakfast celebration? I mean, there's so many different ways to get creative about it. But communication is a huge piece of it.
I'm laughing at the word communication because it sounds easy, but when you start communicating with family members who have very particular opinions and expectations, communication gets real hard, and then it gets so easy to just avoid entirely.
Totally.
Don't avoid, just have the hard conversation, especially with the ones that are difficult to have it with. I don't remember where I read it, but somebody said, it must have been a meme, like, I can communicate all I want, but if you're not receiving my information, this isn't going to work. So do what you can and control what is within your control to do. Mm-hmm. Just don't avoid. I would encourage you, do not avoid.
Absolutely. Right. And if you're a shift worker, I'm going to go ahead and guess that you've got coworkers who are also shift workers. And a lot of times that dynamic promotes kind of a family environment, I guess, within your employment. So I know a lot of shift workers who have their own, I've been working on, pick a holiday when we have a potluck at work. And even if families are at home still celebrating because 60 other family members are off that day, and that's just kind of what's going to happen, you get to partake in the tradition somewhat and then go home to your family and get kind of the tail end of it. But you're absolutely right. I'm pretty sure we have an episode on how to have hard conversations, right? Like, I feel like we should revisit that for this conversation, but communication's key. I feel like I say that about everything, but communication's key.
Communication and self-awareness is basically going to solve all of our problems.
Right? World peace.
World peace. Mark my words.
At least within your circle.
And Nikki said to utilize the team that you have. And that's true. When you're working in these teams, there's often traditions that you can be a part of and or contribute to if you want to, because it can easily feel like you're missing out or you're being left out. And we want you to recognize that you're not alone. You are a part of this large population who unfortunately has to work. You guys don't get the same days off as a traditional, office admin at a school district, because these are safety things, usually safety, security, health. And so we want you to know that we greatly, greatly appreciate you. And if you're in a place where you're not in a team setting at work, find a way to stay connected with others who are also having the same struggle as you. We just want you to remember you're not alone in them.
Heck yeah. And we appreciate you. You're keeping the world running when everybody else is drunkenly making ham and turkey.
And passing out on the couch and watching movies all night.
Is this your family tradition? Watching movies all night? Is that a thing?
Yeah, so we go to sleep.
Okay.
Probably because we're so exhausted from over preparing for the day. Because, part of the stress comes with over preparing and over committing. And I am guilty of that. I like to have lots of things on my list to do. And then I'm like totally exhausted. I will work on that this year.
That's a whole nother episode, the Pinterest holiday and how to combat that. Yeah, that's so
much. The whole DIY era of the details that don't even matter,
the social media era of holidays. Although this has been a thing since long before social media. So that's just there's a pressure there.
Very true. Any other advice for our listeners on how to manage, prepare, or communicate with family to make sure they enjoy this holiday season?
Open up, right? Open up to the people that you're close to, the people that you want to celebrate with, and listen to each other, right? Because maybe for your spouse or your partner or your brother or your sister, it is very important to celebrate on that day. don't just shut that down or assume that they're not hearing you. Hear what's behind that. There's something driving that. Maybe it's because this is what you always did with great grandma who's passed away or whatever it is. Listen to each other, hear each other, and then get creative. Get creative is my number one. I don't know if that's last year or 2 years ago. We celebrated Thanksgiving for us in October. So you know what? Because the whole family was here. We've got family from different states. I was off. It worked out. It was fantastic. It was a great time. You just get creative. Get creative and challenge the societal norms and expectations.
That sounds so fun, by the way.
It was so much fun.
Yeah. And I would add, be positive. Really try to focus on things that you could be grateful for. And yes, get creative. There are solutions.
Heck yeah.
Be kind too. We always like to remind everyone to please be kind. It is a hard season for all of us. It's kind of challenging to be a human these days. There's just a lot of things that keep coming up. So be kind to the person at the drive-thru, to the security, to the firefighter who responds because grandma burned the turkey. Please just be kind to people.
I feel like I should clarify. My grandma would not be the one to burn the turkey. It would be me. I would burn the turkey.
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, not that you would burn it, but
I would.
Grandma's generation, they're pretty spot on.
No, yeah. Grandma's got Pinterest holidays down, and it doesn't even appear to stress her out. She just loves it. So
absolutely. Well, we appreciate you guys allowing us into your lives today and helping us make mental health more relatable. We will see you in the next year.
Thank you for joining Therapists Uncut, a production of AMP Smart Business. To learn more about Therapists Uncut and stay up on upcoming episodes, please subscribe and follow us on social media. As a reminder, although the Therapists Uncut co-hosts are licensed therapists, they are not your therapists. This podcast is not intended to substitute professional mental health counseling. If you need professional therapy, please contact your local provider or primary care provider. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of Therapists Uncut.